Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Clarkson, excited to be here today. Even more excited and jacked up to have a buddy of mine who's going to drop a ton of knowledge and nuggets with you today. It's our good buddy, Gary Boomershine, joining us from your home office, which is great, Gary. It's good to see that because usually we're passing each other on the road most of the time in the last couple of years, right, brother?
Oh, amen. Or being in a mastermind, saying, man, big bear hugs. So it's awesome, Scott. I love the opportunity to be on your show and also being able to share some value to your loyal group of listeners. And man, this is love this business, and I love being able to like possibly shorten somebody's time frame because right, you learn from making mistakes. I've made so many. I've been around. They call me like, what do they? I heard this term called OG, which is the original Gangsters. So if you've been around longer than the market turn, right? A lot of people have not seen the turn of a market, but I started full time 2004. And I got this original Gangster term, but that's
what we call this stuff on the side of our ears. It's great.
You know, it's funny. I cut my hair now, and it's my wife laughs. She's like, you know, as soon as I start seeing the gray, I just turned 50, so I start shaving it, right? She's like, hey, it's getting more and more. You can't hide from it.
Yeah, exactly. It's seasoning, it's experience, it's deals that have gone wrong to give us the gray hair, right?
Yeah, amen, amen. But you know what? This is a great market. It's definitely a different market than it was 3 or 4 years ago. But there's huge amounts of money to be made now, done right. And then also in the downturn, right? When we see the market turn, there's huge shifts of wealth, and I think all of us should be paying attention to that because it's coming.
Yep.
Right. At some point, it's just the real estate's been a 7 to 8 year cycle for over 100 years. And it's like, hey, we're in the euphoric stage when you got the barber and you've got the hairdresser and the nail salon gal or guy talking about real estate. you know that you're kind of in the back end stage. But
I compare it to watching The Big Short and Steve Carell's character in there in the strip club talking to the stripper with 3 or 4 homes on as a steel pole salary, as we like to say. So,
I know. I love that movie. I just watched it like 2 weeks ago. So.
Yeah. So for those that don't know who Gary Boomershine is, why don't you take a second, kind of talk about what you've done and kind of what's evolved over the last couple of years. You're great friends with our buddy George Anton, who we've had on here a couple of times. Just a great guy. We were joking that I think the last time we broke bread was actually at Noteworthy in Vegas. At the Tropicana a few years ago, and then also at the Collective Genius Mastermind, Jason Medley runs. We've been members of that before. And so talk about kind of your journey as an investor since 2004.
Yeah, so gosh, let me just back way up. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My parents had a real estate brokerage. I live outside of San Francisco. I'm about 45 minutes from San Francisco Airport and an area called Danville. So it's where, properties like a tear down in my neighborhood went for 1.3 million. It's crazy. It's total insanity here. But we were, all of us kids were kind of indoctrinated in the business. I had a real estate license when I turned 18. So in 1987, actually all the way through 2005, I ended up getting rid of my license after I went full time as an investor. And my attorney said, hey, you're really not taking on listings. And with the volume of deals you're doing, you really shouldn't, you're going to be held to a higher standard in California. So, but I was licensed for 18 years. What's really interesting is because of like California, Silicon Valley, I ended up getting a computer engineering degree from UC Davis. I didn't think I was going to go down the real estate route. I was going to be like one of those Silicon Valley, .comers, which I lived all the way through it. I got recruited out of college to the largest technology consulting firm in the world, management and technology consulting firm called Accenture, used to be Arthur Andersen. And I did that for 6 years. Great experience, but it was 90-hour work weeks and being inside of buildings and never seeing the light of day. But I learned a massive amount. Decided it was time to go and change a little bit. So I became an enterprise sales guy, actually selling high ticket $500,000 to $5 million software. And I did that and really found my love for sales. A lot of people in the real estate niche know me as the marketing guy, and I'll explain that in a minute, but really it's a sales background. My marketing experience was really just focused on how can I do the highest money-making activity in the business, which is making offers and closing deals. And in order to do that, you got to have a constant flow of leads. And so my background, I started a direct mail company, an engine to get me in front of sellers, and then that's taken off. And so I've got a business, it's called realestateinvestor.com. Most people know us as our flagship product called REI Vault. And by the way, I came up with that idea when I was at Collective Genius, and I'll explain that in a second. But we're the largest marketer in the real estate niche for agents and investors. We've done over 36 million pieces of direct mail. We've tracked every response rate. I have every metric in terms of what's working and in what market. We've also done over 1 million outbound seller cold calls, because I offer a service. It's an agency model that does marketing and sales for real estate investors, real estate agents around the country. We have about 250. I mean, we've got some of the largest people in our niche using our service. We've got guys that, I just got off the phone with a guy in Tampa. They're in 8 markets. They've been spending $74,000 a month on marketing.
Wow.
And we're in the process of onboarding them. So one of the things I can share maybe today for any investors, I really call them business operators, real estate business operators, anybody that's wholesaling, flipping, fix and flip, kind of what's working, because the market, there's a lot of pressure right now, specifically going after off-market deals, going direct to the seller, not on the MLS. There's a lot of pressure because everybody's catching on and everybody's doing direct mail, everybody's doing cold calling. And so does it still work? A lot of people are saying it's dead. There's pressure, but you got to have your processes really tight, specifically around sales and follow-up. So I can talk about that, what's working. But I will tell you, just backing up, given your audience of note buyers and lenders, my favorite passion is actually private lending. Like what I do more of in this business, because it's so ridiculously easy, is like I love being the bank. I love lending, and so I'm funding a lot of deals right now, mostly California, but all very specific types of product. I'm doing first position, super low loan to value. Like I funded an $800,000 deal, right by Facebook.
Yeah.
A father, son bought a house. They put $1 million down. So wow. Imagine I funded a $800,000 loan, getting 9.5% interest. And I don't really care. There could be the biggest earthquake and downturn. It's like, I don't care. So that's a deal that I funded. But I also do flipping, I do wholesaling in a couple of markets because it's so easy to do if you can drive deal flow. And I do some creative deals. Every once in a while, a seller loves to carry back. They like a higher price and they don't want to pay the immediate capital gains. And so I'll get a long-term, 0 interest or low interest loan that's like free money. And then I love doing it. So that's my backstory.
Well,
I'm not a high volume guy on the real estate side, though. There's a lot of people that do hundreds of deals a year, and I'm not a high volume. I'll just say that I don't need to. And one of the things I think it's really easy in this business, you and I before the show were talking about this, it's so easy to get stuck and be a workaholic in this business and turn it into a really terrible job. And so lifestyle and time off and that's a really important thing for me. I think I finally cracked the code on, by the way. It's really easy to be an entrepreneur and then all of a sudden you're making money, but work-life balance gets totally out of sync. And there is I post on if anybody wants to see kind of my story, follow me on Instagram. I have my morning minute, which is I have what I call 5-10-3. That's wake up at 5 in the morning, push your day out, and not start working until 10, and then do 3 hours of work as a CEO. And you can work more, but what are the most important things to move the marker in your business? And I literally come to my whiteboard every day. It's always clear. In those 5 hours, I work out, hang out with the family, do the dishes and some of the other stuff to make the family happy, right?
Happy wife, happy life.
That's right. Then I write my one thing on the board. What's the one thing that I'm going to do? It's usually a relationship. Maybe it's calling an investor to raise some more money or meet them for lunch. It's like, what's the one thing? And that's really changed my trajectory big time.
I love that, Gary, because it's completely 180 degree from what used to happen. You found, and I think we all struggle with that if we're good at this business. And we get excited about the education and teaching and getting out and putting in the real road warrior stuff to really reach our audience. But as we get older, and I was talking with an attorney friend of mine earlier today, but as we get older, we really want to focus on those sweet spots. And we obviously want to keep, like I said, happy wife, happy life, keep the people in our family happy and plugged into that, because it's easy to get away from that being a road warrior. But really finding those niches and really kind of finding the ideal things that we enjoy doing, that we're good at. And sometimes, actually, I found a lot of times less is actually more to what we're doing, right?
Yeah. And it's a lot of, now there's probably a lot of people that follow you that they really are a true real estate investor, and it's very passive. And I want to go on that for just a second. I was at Warren Buffett's shareholder meeting and a couple of months ago. And by the way, there were 35,000 other people there, so it wasn't like I'm like one of a cool group of people. I was in the nosebleed seats with some good friends of mine who are the top team for Berkshire Hathaway. Well, anyway, Warren was sitting there and he said, a real estate investor, a true real estate investor is somebody that has money and they buy a property, a physical asset, right? A property or a building, and then they hold it for the long haul, right? That's a real estate investor, and they take all the benefits of real estate. They're taking the passive income, right? They are getting appreciation, they're getting depreciation, they're getting all the tax benefits, et cetera, and paying down the note using somebody else's money. Somebody that's fixing and flipping, a wholesaler, rehabber, it's a one-time, quick money. It's a job. It's a business, right? And so as a business owner, so you're a real estate business operator, which is great. I do that, but you need to recognize it because every business needs a CEO. Mm-hmm. And if you're a CEO and you're doing $10 an hour work, you're going to have a $10 bank account. I think that's so important because the money, right? The money can come. A lot of us, we do the wrong stuff. We're super cheap, but you got to run it like a business. You need to know what is the value of your time, and you need to understand the value of leverage. And leverage is not just money; it's also leveraging people. Most businesses, if not every business in America, the profitable ones, leverage other people's time, other people's experiences, other people's resources, and nurturing that team. And I'll tell you, it wasn't until I really cracked the code on that I got freedom. So anyway, hopefully that resonates to a lot of us that are on the show today, because I did not crack the code. It actually took some real heavy hitter CEO coaches for me to beat me over the head. And if any of you are out there and you're struggling with workaholic, not having the type of bank account that you really should, I would say get a really good CEO coach, like a Scott Carlson. I've got 4 of them, by the way. I have 4 different coaches, including a personal trainer that like even this morning I was out and he's like holding me accountable and saying, hey, how'd you do on the IPAs, the beer last night? And I'm like, I didn't do so well.
Well, I think every successful person out there has coaches, whether it's in your fitness, it's in your business, it's in relationships. I think it's one of the most powerful, impactful things that have helped me grow. I know it's helped you grow tremendously because we're part of some different groups like that. But it's the ability to be honest with yourself and share that with somebody who's either been down the path that where you're at, or is in a place where you want to get to. Because I think the most successful people are sometimes the most open and willing to share, because they don't want to see you make the same mistakes. If they're really a true, God-given, willing to share their time and help you overcome something. If they're a true coach, they want to help you overcome those hurdles. But I think that's you got to be able to reach out to somebody, because we only know what we know. And a lot of times, as you said, it becomes a job. It becomes a workaholic, which is not what everybody wants to be. You're banging your head against doing what you only know, and you need sometimes to kind of somebody to grab you by the collar, reach back and help you see the forest, and maybe see a different way of doing your business to help leverage people, leverage resources, to find an easier way to skin that cat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And there's not a professional athlete or a professional musician or even CEOs, heavy hitter CEOs, like Google is a perfect example, that doesn't have a coach, like somebody that's holding them accountable. And it's the proven model. It's also why most companies have board of directors. It's the accountability component. There's a great video. The former CEO of Google was Eric Schmidt, and he ran Novell. He ran a multi-billion-dollar company, and there's a great video on Eric Schmidt, Google, regarding coaching. And so he was when he was early on and brought into Google a few years ago. Now he runs ABC, which is their bigger company behind Google. But he was recommended to get a coach. And the coach for Silicon Valley, he's now passed away. His name was Bill Campbell. And Eric said, "Why would I need a coach? I've run some of the multi-billion-dollar company." And so Eric said that was the best decision. Google wouldn't be what it was today, because a coach is somebody that holds you accountable and also knows you better than you know yourself. And there's a lot of stucks for us right through life, and in the journey that we're all on. And so that's been a game changer for me. My coach is a guy by the name of Willie Hooks, a retired guy. He was a heavy hitter in Silicon Valley. We call him Yoda. And also, I'm a huge Traction fan, by the way, especially real estate investors, the business operators. If you're running a business and you feel like you really don't have the team that is accountable and not giving you freedom, and your business isn't growing, this is an awesome book. Gino Wickman. In fact, I'm about ready to bring him, trying to get him on my podcast. But Traction is another life changer for me, and we're a big Traction company. That's the other thing. We've implemented the Traction model, and what it did for me for the first time ever, I took a 6-week sabbatical from my businesses in September, completely checked out. My wife and I and the kids, we just got back from Europe. We did 3 weeks in Europe, and all I did over there is I recorded some videos while I was on the beach. And I took almost the entire month of February off. And the reason was we implemented Traction. I've got an integrator that runs my businesses, and and so that's been a real improvement.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think Traction is one of the best books. It's a must read. I think it's a top 10 must read as entrepreneurs out there who are putting teams together and really trying to bring things together versus just trying to do it all themselves, or they're not finding the right people in the right place. Because sometimes, especially, that's one of the big things, is identifying those core values, those core things that make you successful, and focusing on those attraction.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the things that we do a lot of, and that's one of the things I want to kind of get into here with you, we talk a lot about marketing. I think this whole business, as you said, is all about, I believe this is all about sales, but it's all about marketing. Finding seller leads. With us, it's finding bank leads, or finding note leads, or finding investors to fund your deals. And it all comes down to doing those things well and doing it over, and also tweaking your message so that you're really finding the right ratio, right form of what works. And so I'd love for you to share what you see kind of working out there with a lot of the direct mail pieces and a lot of the other stuff that you're doing, the call centers and stuff like that. Because I think you've got some really valuable tools that some of those investors that are listening right now can either take advantage of or really learn by listening to Gary's experience. Because with you guys doing so much for so many people, hey, you guys know what's working and what's not working out there today.
Yeah, no, awesome. I'll start unpeeling the onion, big picture, and so marketing and sales go hand in hand. So you could have the best marketing in the world, if you don't actually manage and work the leads properly, you're going to be never closing and making the money. I think of it as like epoxy glue. I shared this on stage a few weeks ago. I literally have the picture of epoxy glue. Most of us, especially on the real estate side, know epoxy. You got two types of glue, but but by themselves, they do nothing. They have to have the bonding agent, right? When you mix them together, it becomes strong. So it's just like traffic and conversion. If you're doing online marketing, you gotta generate the traffic, then you gotta convert the traffic. And similar, it's marketing and sales. This market, this particular, especially finding deal flow, and I'm going to talk specifically around single family, but it also works for land. The only thing, going after apartments, direct mail is not what I would consider the best source, and it's really interesting why, and that's because the property manager, who's the gatekeeper, throws all the marketing away because they'll lose their job. But there's a funnel. When I say a funnel, it's basically a marketing and sales funnel, and it's actually on our website. You can go out to REI Vault. You don't have to do it now, but reivault.com. There's a funnel, and this is going after sellers. It's like, what is the formula to get sellers to close, call you, right, or go to your website and then go through the process. And the funnel was actually, we were at Collective Genius, and Kent Clothier and Sean Terry were sitting there at a table, and Sean Terry, I think one of the best trainers around, the real estate, investing. That guy's awesome in terms of wholesaling, et cetera, et cetera. But he drew this on a napkin, and I just took the napkin and got my graphics guy and drew it up. But here's the thing: marketing and sales, it's an art and a science. The science part, it's a numbers game. And when I say that is because you're going to spend a certain amount of money on marketing, and that's going to generate a certain number of leads. And those leads, there's going to be a bunch of them because you're going to get the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then you got to get on the phone and work them. Most of the magic is going to actually be in follow-up. That's only 3% of deals come off of the first interaction with a seller. 3%, by the way, that's a national average. That's no different in real estate as it is in a car dealership, insurance, or anything else. So you're nurturing them. And so typically what I'm finding is somewhere between 20 and 45 leads result in a deal. 20 and 45. It doesn't matter whether you're doing direct mail, Facebook. If you're generating seller leads off of Facebook, it's the same thing. Cold calling leads, same thing. If you're generating a warm lead, they still have to be nurtured. And so here's the thing: there's multiple components of getting marketing to work, and some of this stuff is $10 an hour work, some is $100 an hour work, some is $1,000 an hour work. The problem is most of us can't do it all in this market. So the first thing at the top layer, and let me actually back up. To find off-market deals right now, there's three best ways that most of the big guys that have 7- and 8-figure businesses are doing. There's direct mail, cold calling, believe it or not, old school cold calling off of a list of names and phone numbers, and then RVM, which is ringless voicemail, where we're bypassing the phone and going right to their voicemail. And the reason those three are the best, there's 100 other ways to do it. There's door knocking, and there's bandit signs, and there's post-it notes and all kinds of stuff. There's dialing for dollars, driving for dollars, whatever the whiz-bang thing. But those three, it's proven, it's repeatable, it's scalable, and there you can get a measurable ROI, which means you spend $1, you make 5. You spend $1, you make 10. And this is where most of these business operators, they don't get it, because it's all around an ROI on your spend. And you need to know, what is the cost per deal? Like, how much do I have to spend to get the deal? And how much am I going to make on the deal? And what's the ROI? Which is, you take let's say you make your wholesaler. I just talked to a guy in Dallas. I coach him, and I actually help him on some of his deals. He spent $17,000 on marketing in Dallas, by the way, one of the hottest markets. $17,000 in marketing since March, and he had closed and made $159,000. Okay, and his average profit per deal was $17,000. So that's almost a 900% ROI. When I know most people in that market are probably doing spend $1, make 3.
Yep.
So you think about this. this is why a lot of people, they're like all about like, how do I get a better list? They're chasing rainbows. How do I get a better mailing list? It's like, there is no better mailing list. There's our list, there's Chris Richter's list. If you don't have one of those, then go get SMART, which is Kent Clothier's list, find motivated sellers, vacant, and mail it, right? But they're looking, or they're trying to get the perfect postcard, and it's like there is no perfect postcard. There's stuff that does better, and gets a better response. But at the end of the day, like if you're in most markets right now, you're going to probably spend an average of like $2,000 to $2,500, maybe $3,000 in marketing to get enough leads to close a deal. Okay, if you're like, we've got a guy in Indianapolis. He did 2.3 million last year in wholesale flips. Super sharp guy. 1.3 million off of direct mail, our direct mail alone. That his average cost per deal was $622 last year per deal. So he's $622 to make a $15,000 profit. I think they did like 105 deals off of direct mail. Cool. So it's a numbers game. So the first thing you have to do is you got to get the list, and then you have to have the right copy of like, what are the right words to that list? And then you've got to find the fulfillment house that's going to do it, and do it consistently, like every single week. And then you've got to have the system, the mousetrap, which is typically CRM. It could be Investor Fuse, Podio. My favorite tool out there besides Podio is Investor PO, Robert Seifert. I think that's the best CRM out there right now in this market. The mousetrap, where the leads come in and then there's follow-up, right? Working the leads, text messaging. There's then the phone system, and then you have to have somebody that answers the call live. You have to answer the call live. You could put them to a pre-recorded message, but you got to have the right system to do that. Somebody answering the phone calls, and then you need a text message and follow up. That's huge, right? A lot of the leads that'll come in, they're not ready. I'll give you an example. About 20% of most leads are going to be sellers saying they're not interested. Those leads are absolute gold mine. They're some of our best leads, but they take 4 to 5 months before you can start working them again. And 99% of real estate investors skip those. They never touch them again. So anyway, what REI Vault does is we take all the minutia of all this stuff that you got to do, and for less than $10 an hour, like you're hiring us for like one resource. It's like the equivalent of a team of 40 for the cost of one resource at $10 an hour. And we'll do all of that. Plus, we'll also do all the phone talking, all the screening, calling the seller, screening them, asking them about bedrooms and bathrooms, and converting those into an appointment. So at the end of the day, you as a real estate business owner or your team can get in front of sellers that are totally screened and ready to go, and versus having to do all the other work. That's what we do. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's amazing, but most people try to, what's the word here, are cheap.
Yeah.
They don't want to hire somebody. I think the biggest, as I always tell people, hey, if you want to go from 0 to 6 figures, first thing you need to do is hire an assistant, first and foremost. Somebody who's going to do those low dollar prices. You guys provide that for people to get rocking and rolling and do stuff. But you guys aren't looking for somebody who's brand new in the business too, who's just straight out of a class or a workshop, right? Let's.
Yeah. No. So REI Vault, not everybody for sure is a candidate. In fact, most people probably aren't. It's for people that actually are making money already. They have experience. They don't have to have a ton of experience. Most of our people do, but they're ready to scale. So they're looking for scale and value marketing and leveraging other people. And so they'll apply to become a member. Again, we'll go through a fit assessment together. There's no sales cycle at all. It's like, hey, we're going to make sure you're a good fit, that we're a fit for you, but also likewise, we want to make sure you're a good fit for us. And and there's no follow-up of like, hey, we're going to hammer you over the head. We want to make sure it's a good fit, because it's really about a long-term relationship. There's a lot of people that come to us and we send them away and say, hey, you're just not ready yet. And so if they're not ready, it's like, hey, here's where you should go for training. You want, if you need more training, go here. right? This is who we recommend. This is the recommendation. And then number two, if you're needing a really good mailing list to do on your own, go sign up with Kent Clothier. He has a system called Smart, and you can sign up. And then the mail house is a company called Graphics Connection out of you know him. It's Jeff Charlton. It's like there's a lot of mail houses out there, but Jeff might be a little bit more expensive by a penny, right, than some of these other guys, but you're going to get better quality. He's going to tell you what the right mail piece is, and that it's going to actually get done. Where some of the other guys I've heard like some crazy stories. They charge a lot less, but some of the stuff goes into the garbage or it doesn't print right. So we'll send people down that path and say, hey, go make some money, prove it out, then come back, and we'd love to help you scale. That makes sense. We take on about 15 people a month. Our stuff is also exclusive. Our markets are we don't want people competing with one another, because we have a private membership kind of behind the scenes. There's a private Facebook group, and people are sharing what's working. They're sharing deals. We got a couple of people, like I know Clay, the guy I mentioned in Indianapolis. We got a couple of other people, and they're, Clay's flipping deals, and Steve Richards is one of the guys buying them, and a couple of other people, right? So that's a big deal for us. So anyway, I don't know if that helps, but
yeah.
There's a for those people that are fairly new, they're not really ready for REI Vault. There's also a seller script, like the perfect words. It's the same script like our team has time tested of what to say to the seller when you get on the phone with them. And I'll actually give it out to everybody right now. Maybe you can put it in the show notes, but reivault.com/VIP. That is, you'll actually learn about REI Vault as well, but there's some tools in there some free stuff and I'm constantly adding to it as well. But there's a script that you can get access to. It's called our Sales Ninja script. It's like, what do you say to the seller, right? The icebreaker, what are the perfect words? And if you're cold calling them, what are the perfect words? And that was actually developed by most of our top guys using our service. We all came together.
That's good stuff. Now, you hit something extremely on the head there. Most people don't follow up, and you outlined in that session there, just talking about some of the different ways you guys follow up: phone call, ringless voicemail, text message. So many people, and that's where we find over half our deals is in the following up 30 days later with a seller. You said, especially that you've motivated sellers. Yeah, if they're answering a mail piece, it may take 5 or 6 months before they actually get ready. But it's like Inception. You're like Leonardo DiCaprio planting that seed that they think about you as they get rock and rolling. It sometimes takes time for that deal to grow, that seller to actually, okay, I'm going to sell this, I'm going to move this asset now. And as long as you're following up, you're the person that gets the phone call or the email afterwards, right, Gary?
Yeah. And so one of the things, this is, I've had so many people comment on this over and over again, is that thank you. This was a mindset change. When you are marketing and you're generating leads, you should just have the philosophy that all leads suck. So all the leads suck. And they do, by the way. All direct mail leads suck. All cold call leads suck. All Facebook leads suck. SEO and pay-per-click, that all leads suck. And the reason is it's not until you get on the phone and start interacting and uncovering some of the problems and doing the follow-up where the money is made. Most people, they'll do some direct mail, they'll do some cold calling. They're 3 feet from gold and they don't even know it. And then they say, oh, it doesn't work. And they're off to the other rabbit hole, right? They're chasing something else. In reality, here's what we're finding consistently, that these leads, you're going to get a small percentage of them that will close right away off the first phone call. It's a numbers game. So typically, who was I talking to yesterday? 1 in 20. Somebody I know who it was, Javier. These guys do $3 million a year in 8 markets. So one out of these 20 leads is a kind of just a tee up, right? Actually, I take it back. It was Larry Goins.
I was on Larry's podcast this morning.
Yeah, and I was yesterday. That's so funny. Larry, 1 in 20, which is pretty consistent. So there's a certain number of what we call bluebirds. It's like, oh, you just all of a sudden you just happen to have the perfect deal. That doesn't happen. Most of the deals, 97% are going to take interaction. And here's the magic. The formula is 5 to 12. 80% of the profits come between the 5th and the 12th interaction.
Yeah.
And so you just got to stay at it. And most of the leads, like the way marketing works is typically you spend some money today. Realistically, it's going to be about 90 to 120 days before you actually start seeing the return on investment. So you spend $1 and 90 to 120 days is about what the return is. And it just takes some interaction. Ideally, you have we call them a sales ninja. It's somebody that's dialing for dollars, and that's all they do, right? We do that for like less than $500 a month. Our team will actually take all those leads and relentlessly call them all day long. Typically, we're finding, like, you call a seller, we're finding 100 dials will get 12 sellers on a call.
Yeah.
So 100 dials to get 12 sellers, and we're turning 1.5 appointments. So about 10% are turning into appointments. Now we'll just call them again and again and again over a year, because that's actually how it works. But think of a real estate person, one of us, being as busy as we are, having to dial 100 numbers, right? That's like $1 an hour work, yeah. Right? And if you're doing that, you're not going to have any time to like be raising money, to be, being in masterminds and like focusing on bigger opportunities, right? Building a team. So anyway, I was, the way this all came together, Scott, you were probably there. We were in CG, and everybody was talking about how direct mail was crushing it. And we had 110 of us, and Joe McCall started talking about Podio, right? And the Podio is this cool new CRM tool, and CallRail was like the phone system. And then my good friend Brad Chandler had the cool postcard, and Chris Chico had the magic postcard, and this particular mailing list. And then everybody's going off and having to implement. And I said, guys, there's 110 of us. Why don't we build one team? So let's build one team, right? Keep it just to ourselves, and share massively. And so that's actually how it all came up with, how I came up with REI Vault. I'm like, that's how the design came up. So
that's a true mastermind at work, working together to help everybody implement, because they're all in different markets. Brad's in the DC, Metro Washington, DC area. Sean Terry's in Phoenix. Who else did you mention there? Oh my God. Joe McCall's out of St. Louis.
Yeah.
Different parts of the country, and all working together and sharing that stuff. And that's one of the most valuable things about having a mastermind to get together, is just sharing those nuggets. It's working. And, instead of you doing it all and trying to figure it out, so you've got 150, 30 people, whatever your mastermind is, really kind of coming together to share that stuff. And you can really decrease the cost when you're working together like that in overhead to make things happen. So,
there's a famous statement. It's actually biblical. King Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. There is nothing new in real estate at all. I mean, the wholesaling, a lot of us think that this guy is the one that created it. It's like, no, that's been around for hundreds of years. Like the whole, nothing new under the sun. However, where we are in the cycle, there's certain things that work better. So what you need to do is you need to find the expert like you, right? You are the absolute expert in what you teach, and that's why you got such a great following. You go and find that person, and you learn it and replicate what they do. Right? You get some coaching, and a lot of people think they need real estate coaching. A lot of it is like, one-on-one help, right, from the master. And then down the road, you basically become the master, because other people and give it back. And then the masterminds, like being around like-minded people. Like, I cannot tell you, like give you a perfect example. CG, it was a guy, Randy Tossig, who is a traction coach, came and spent 4 hours and said, here's the model. And I ran to the back of the room, and by the way, he wasn't selling anything. And I said, Randy, can I hire you?
Yeah.
Right. And that's who our traction coach is to this very day. That I would not have a business. I would probably not even be married for being a workaholic without implementing that.
Well, but that's the big thing. We've talked with Gary Harper, who's also a traction implementer, and familiar with him, and hanging out with Gary and stuff like that. But that's a big thing. Is I think everybody gets so bogged down trying to do it all themselves. They got to take the time. They're saying, hey, talk with people, share things, share the resources. There's plenty of resources out there to help everybody out there. It makes life simpler. And the numbers you gave about having about the numbers to direct dial deal, it's almost exactly the same numbers we see on the note side of it. If we're reaching out, are people making phone calls direct to banks for asset managers? It's almost the exact same number. 80% of sales made it after that fifth contact. And you've just got to embrace the suck and realize you've got to do these 5 things, just even really get in the ball game to get rocking and rolling. And so many people don't have the patience. They want to make one phone call and make $1 million on that one first deal. And we all know that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'll give a couple of other things that some more advanced tips from what I'm seeing right now. The people that are really crushing it, there's one is it's a numbers game. They know their numbers. So, 20 to 45 leads in order to get a deal, and an average of 5 to 12 interactions with the seller, and being able to track that. And if you do that, number one, your chances of success are going to be like skyrocketing. And we're talking massive numbers. If people knew what the return is from every time they pick up the phone and dial, it's crazy whether the seller answers or not. If you run the math, I have a tool that actually it's on one of the free tools. You can calculate all this. Second thing is, I think the days of making the low ball cash offer right now are pretty much over. This is not an order taker market. The sellers, especially in most of the markets, especially the hotter ones, Dallas, Denver, California, Phoenix, almost everywhere in the country, Atlanta, a lot of people were just, seller calls, they'd make a crappy offer and they'd get the deal closed. And now the sellers they're watching, they know how hot real estate is. And so there's a little bit more finesse. So that's called sales skills. The second thing is learning how to make multiple offers, coming in and being a problem solver. You think of a car dealer, right? There's a formula, the same formula that works in real estate and frankly every other business. There's not just one car at a dealership, right? And they have a model, and then they have like the low grade with, the old wind-up windows to the seat warmers, et cetera, et cetera. And so when you're interacting with the seller, you really just coming in with the one simple offer, your close rate's going to go down. You want a high close rate, you need to be able to come in, interact with the seller, be able to work with them, find out what works best for them, and give them a couple of offers. Like, here's a cash offer. We could actually, if you'd be a little flexible, we could probably get you, this price or somewhere in between. What works for you, Mr. Seller? So that multiple offer approach is crushing it. And by the way, why this is so important is that most markets, Open Door, OfferPad, iBuyer, there's a lot of competition that are now coming in, fighting for that same lead.
Yeah.
And so that's super important. Let's see what else. In terms of the magic mailing list, like Chris Richter's probably got Chris Richter is known. His list is expensive. It's really for the larger guys, but his list has always been really good. We have a list. We have 2 proprietary mailing lists that we provide our members. One's called an invisible list. The other one's shipwrecked. But in reality, the invisible is mostly an inherited property. What we're finding is an absentee inherited, free and clear property. It's a gold mine. There's actually 18 million of them in the U.S.
Wow.
So out of the 125 million single family available on public record, there's 18 million. Now, getting the 18 million takes a little bit of finesse, and that's why we've cracked the code on that. Code violations and recently divorced, and so kind of the economically distressed. We call that the shipwreck list. That's great. There's a product called Rebo Gateway that has great data to do that. So those are a couple of giveaways. If with REI Vault, we do this all for you. So we basically build a plan with a budget that based on what you want to do, and then we execute that and we pull all the mailing lists, or you may have some mailing lists and you give them to us, and we kind of do the best of the best.
What's a typical size of a call list that your guys will look at and run with for somebody? We're not talking 100 people. We're talking what, 5,000 or 1,000 or no?
Yeah, cold calling, like and this is fairly new. This is just based on the fact that we started seeing people having massive success cold calling. Why is cold calling so hot right now? Well, nobody does it.
Yeah.
And as soon as everybody does it, it's not going to be as effective, right? And cold calling done right. So here's the numbers. One full-time person can ring about 5,000 numbers a month. So what we do is we'll go build a list of 15,000 names and phone numbers, typically with 7 to 8 phone numbers, and load those into an auto dialer. We use 5.9. That's actually that's the Ferrari. Mojo would be what most people would use. 5.9 is what the big credit card companies use, and then we are dialing. If they're cell phone numbers, you got to be compliant and not get nailed by the FCC. I don't think Mojo does this, but cell phone numbers get handled a little differently in the auto dialer. You got to be careful cold calling. But what we did is we actually we charge $1,500 a month plus the list. You either give us the list or we'll actually pull the list using our list, and then we'll what's called data stack it. It's skip tracing. So we'll go out. We use 3 different data providers to pull the numbers, and for $1,500 a month, it's somebody that's calling for you full time, Monday through Saturday. So 6 days a week for $1,500. I think that works out to like $7 an hour or something.
Wow, that's cheap.
Yeah,
cheap.
We do that. We actually started doing it kind of on top of marketing for our members, and then we just recently in the last couple months offer it as a standalone service, which is, hey, we'll do that. The follow-up that should be done on every lead, text message and ringless voicemail. We do that. We actually, like, if depending upon the type of lead, a lead comes in and let's say it's a hang up, which is a lot of leads. A lot of people never actually talk to you live. They'll go on a hang up campaign, and they'll be followed up for 3 years. Okay, and so it's text message. Hey, we just missed a call from you. Were you calling about were you calling about a property that you wanted to sell? Call me. And then it'll immediately get pushed into the auto dialer for the follow-up team to immediately call. And they'll know, our team knows it's a hang up. They call with a very specific hang up script. And typically we try to get on the phone within 15 minutes and follow up with them. So that's text message. The remove from the list, the real angry callers are some of the best leads. Believe it or not. I've made more money off of my biggest deals on the single family side have come from the angriest of callers. I'm actually living in a house in California that came off of a letter where the lady called to be removed from the list. And I called her back. We ended up putting her on a follow-up campaign that we do for everybody. It's a handwritten follow-up letter that gets the highest results of anything we do. And she called 3 months later saying, hey, are you still interested in buying my house?
That's awesome, Gary.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
It is. But I think what it is what I've found, because we deal with a lot of borrowers that get angry when they get letters from us. They're calling, and it comes from a fear factor for the most part. Their biggest fears are being realized, oh, hey, somebody's trying to buy my house, or I'm facing eviction, or I'm facing foreclosure. It just takes a little bit of time for the emotions to get out of the way to finally get them on the phone and have an intelligent conversation and tell them, hey, I'm really trying to help you out as best I can,
Yeah. Scott, you and I probably need to figure out, we need to come together and mastermind together on an agency, like a done for you, program for your people on the note side.
I'm gonna get my gears spinning here, buddy.
Let me tell you, we actually could turn up private lenders that are looking for cash buyers. I've got the letter already. That's proven that for hard money lenders or private lenders that want to lend more money, the list is cash buyers. It's investors that are buying that basically use hard money, right? Mm-hmm. And the letter is pretty simple. Hey, you looking for any more of it?
So one of the things that I do is we pull a lot of lists of people that have IRAs, and we're getting, their name, their emails, their phone numbers on a big chunk of them. And that's turned out to be very, very fruitful, reaching out to those people, you know, that they may not know. It leads a lot for our self-directed IRA, like Quest Trust Company is a sponsor. So it leads to them moving money into them. It's a new account. They're getting assets under management. It also leads to great sources for deals for us to fund deals at lower interest rates than your hard money guys and things like that too.
Man, now you got my wheels spinning. I've been looking for that list for a while.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that off topic here with everybody.
Yeah. Now that would be very good for putting in place for a lot of your students, and I would love to do that. So and you know, calling the you know the lien holder, et cetera, that's all super easy. It's the same stuff, just a twist on the message.
Exactly. Well, hey Gary, what's the best way? We're kind of running out of time here. What's the best way for people to reach out to you to see if they qualify, or just to, you know, touch base with you, see if REI Vault's a fit for them? And you've given so many great nuggets and great software and tools for people already here. I hope everybody's taking notes. I mean, we'll have everything in the blog and the article with all the links on the homepage, weclosenotes.com, for the podcast.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So reivault.com/VIP is probably the best place I'd send everybody on this, any of your students or the show. There's special tools in there. Basically, we were listed on, we were featured on Fox Business News. You'll watch a quick video. Gosh, I was kind of nervous in that. So if everybody sees like I'm nervous, I was actually nervous.
That's not good. You did good, man. You did good. Look,
Yeah,
I can tell you're a little bit nervous, but you did good, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But it explains exactly what we do for REI Vault. There's a see if you qualify, and you can, if you're interested and you want to possibly become a member, check us out. You can go through the see if I qualify. There's an application you'll fill out, brief, and then you'll schedule a live call, and it's going to be with Julia or June. Super sharp. They know our business. Julia has flipped probably 200 or 300 houses herself. You'll love her. It'll be a fit assessment. Just, hey, we'll answer questions. You can be relaxed. It's not a sales cycle at all. You will not be sold by us. It'll be probably more of like, hey, we want to make sure that this is a really good fit.
Right.
I just launched Instagram, so Gary Boomershine, and I'm on Facebook. I have a podcast that I launched where I'm interviewing all kinds of cool people. It's called realestateinvestor.com huddle. And, you know, you can always hit me up on Facebook Messenger or Instagram. I'm pretty responsive. You know, until I get completely overloaded, right? Sometimes I'll disappear for a while, but I love this niche, man. I love talking to other people and sharing value, and I've gotten a ton of value and little nuggets and tips and tricks. You know, Larry Goins yesterday shared something with me on not working in the MSAs. He's actually working a couple of counties out. And I'm in a mastermind. What is the value of that? That one nugget, right? Of like a lot of people struggling working in like the center part of Atlanta. It's like go out a few counties. There's a massive amount of money. So I love sharing. I love sharing it with people that are like-minded and not like haters. You know, sometimes you'll get a hate message of like, oh, this is a BS message and smoke and mirrors. It's like, do you even have you ever, anyway, you know the deal.
I know
there's always the haters.
You can't make everybody happy. That's learned it a long time ago. Well,
yeah.
Gary, I want to say thank you for joining me here. Been a very good pleasure. I'm going to reach back out to you here. We're going to schedule a time. We can pick each other's brain on a couple of things that we're working on here. I think it'd be easy to set that up for everybody in our neck of the woods and vice versa for you, some of your clients as well too for you. But thanks so much, man. Thanks for being a value add and dropping so much knowledge here today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be with you and your loyal listeners.
Thanks, man. Guys and gals out there, go check out his podcast. Gary does a great job. Great guests on there as well. And check it out. Like you said, go to reivault.com/VIP to see if you're a fit and download those things that Gary was talking about. You'll add value right there for you. And go out and make something happen, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you all at the top.